It's good to see you. Um, I slipped and fell into the apple walled garden, and not only do I think I'll be here for a while, I'm gonna go ahead and take a walk and smell some of these roses. Yeah, sure. So I don't like this any more than you do. And it's been a long journey for a lot of you. That's been a long for the ride with the LD Empire. Um, we were we the whole crew, and I'll speak for myself, was a very avid Windows Mobile guy. Windows Mobile was such a dope product, and for me, the main draw to Windows Mobile was the fluidity of the UI and the function of the UI, the live tiles, and how the messages were integrated with the social networks and all that fun stuff. But it really kicked into a whole nother level for me when Nokia got involved, and the photography, the cameras on the Windows phones were like, they were nuts, man. It was, wow, what a time, what a time. And that actually got me into photography. And a lot of you do know, most of you may not. Today I'm a professional photographer. And photography is one of those things where it balances my life. If I'm not creating in a photography in the context of photography, I find that uh my universe is off centered. So I credit a lot of that to Windows Mobile and those Nokia phones. And I really loved what I got out of that experience. But as Windows Mobile started to really hit the fan with the lack of apps and support and all that good stuff, I had a decision to make it, and it really was a default for me to transition from Windows Mobile over to Android, because again, there was so much about Apple. Like I was not a fan of Steve Jobs, and really the Apple that exists today isn't the Apple that existed back then. Apple was much more of a cultural and cult type of deal. Today, it's just a technology company that largely does things that I'm aligned with. Um, Try not to say the word right. And I couldn't get with it. And then also, let's give Samsung some credit. Samsung was really hitting hard with the hardware. They were pushing the limits of the size of a phone. This was back with the phablet thing was hot, right? So the bigger the phone, the better. And for me, that equated to a better experience, not only in consuming content, but a bigger screen to watch your videos, a bigger screen to look at your photos, and a bigger screen to type on. That was a thing as well. And Samsung's cameras were pretty good as well. And yeah, Samsung cameras have superseded a lot of what Nokia was doing. So I was very comfortable over in the Android world. And then things started to happen. Um, Android started because of just its popularity, and it what I describe as the Windows effect. You know, people talk about how much of a nightmare and insecure and just crappy Windows is, and and a lot of that's accredited to the fact that it's just the default. It's 85% of the market. Everyone's using it for good and bad. And then think about it from a technology stance. How do you make a product that is good for so many people? It's virtually impossible because it means so much to so many people on so many levels. And I think Android sort of experienced that in the mobile world. And it was a very interesting thing to be a part of. And Samsung started to really annoy me. They would do things like there was a ton of new features that would come out, and they would start to lock it behind the upgrade. And what was interesting there is the micro stutters that were happening in traversing the UI in Samsung phones never really went away from me. It was always an issue, but then it just got worse and worse and worse. And it sort of became this game where the only way to get the improvement to the software was to buy the new phone, because the update wouldn't come for your phone till like almost a year after the new phone was on the market. Like it was just a bad experience. And then as I traversed my IT career and became more security focused and become more aware of the madness that's going on in our world, you sort of see how insecure Android can be. And Samsung was doing a good job of addressing some of that stuff, but it was not cool. And for some time I had investigated the Pixels, and then the Pixels themselves was trash, which was like mind-boggling for me, because Google made Android and they couldn't even get the experience right on their hardware. And I just, listen, I went and bought an iPhone 12 Pro. I think it was a Pro. And I never looked back. And there were some initial gripes that was there. You could make noise about widgets, but then how often was I really using widgets to begin with to make noise about it? OneDrive was there, right? The app situation was not an issue being Android or iOS. So I had OneDrive. All my stuff was there, was being backed up. iMessage was more of a welcome feature than I would have liked to acknowledge. But yeah, now you're a blue bubble, and now you can send videos at proper quality. Now you can send photos at proper quality. Now people can react to your messages, and now you're in the cool crowd and all that silliness. But there's a lot about the ecosystem from a software perspective that was pretty dope. How they handled backing up, how they handled continuity. So you got an iPad, and iMessage was on the iPad, and the message came through on your iPad or your phone. You got a watch, same deal. You got a Mac, same deal. So it was this thing where the phone was much less of the center of the universe and the experience, but more so a pillar of it. And it's quite a convenient way of existing. And yeah, it's wild to hear me talk about this. So today, as it stands, I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, I have an Apple Watch, I have a MacBook Pro, right? Like, and these things, they work in this perfect harmony where if I grab, it's a nice day, so I'll grab the laptop going on the porch. If I forgot the phone in the house, I'm in no rush to run back, and I'm not missing anything. In fact, Matt, you can mirror the phone on the Macs. You got your messages, your emails already there. You can do your FaceTime. There's just all this wild stuff about it. Like if I leave the house to walk the dog and I forget the phone, I got the watch. I could still take the phone call, and there's a lot to it. And then you start to say, okay, well that ecosystem is cool, but what about the devices themselves? I still think Apple is leading class in the design. I still feel like they're doing such a great job. Now, are they cutting edge with like the highest resolution and fastest refresh rate? Probably not. In fact, decidingly so not. But that stuff doesn't matter. And as I got older as a person and more mature as a person, the services are what matters to me, and things working and working where I am and working when I need them to is so much more important than a higher refresh rate on my phone. You could argue, and that's often the things Apple argues about that we don't take into account when you're so deep into the tech sphere conversation. Do you even notice the difference between 90 and 120 on a refresh rate? The answer is yes, you do notice it, but to what end? Does it matter? It does not. It does not. And so there's this unison that is existing around the Apple ecosystem that I actually do find valuable. And then there's Apple could have stopped there, but they're the way they're handling their technology with these M process, it's trust me when I tell you I am a huge Microsoft person, and that's been fading a lot these days because Microsoft they're finding new creative ways to piss me off and disappoint me. And some of it is Microsoft, some of it is not Microsoft. So like I've got a gaming PC with a 4090 and an i9 and 64 gigs of RAM and all of this madness. And it's nice to game on, but I play Overwatch. You know what I mean? And then if I play Battlefield, whatever, like obviously I've got a lot more than what I require for what I'm doing with. Mainly my rig is about editing video and editing photos. That's my professional life. And I can tell you, my M3 Pro MacBook laptop outperforms my i9 with a 4090 and 64 gigs of RAM in both video and photo editing. What? And that laptop barely breaks a sweat. I don't hear a fan. It doesn't heat up. It doesn't get hot. And I can do all of this from the couch. There's a lot to consider there, right? And if I want the dual or 3-screen experience that I got here connected to my rig, just get a docking station and so be it. And then when something breaks, I can just run to an Apple store that's 10 minutes away and get it replaced. Like I can, if I'm a less technically inclined person, I can take it to the Apple store and get support from the Genius, which I used to clown and find very, very hilarious because these people aren't really geniuses, but you don't need to be a genius when the product worked. Their baseline level of support ain't Dell, right? So there's a lot about how I'm being, I would say, pulled into the Apple ecosystem more so than pushed, because I'm losing my tolerance for the silliness that's going on over in the Microsoft world. Intel is trash. AMD is trash. We're talking processors. Nvidia is trash. There's so much that's going on, and like you don't. What's interesting is I have a close eye on Steam. At this point, I'm probably gonna not be using Windows for much, not even gaming, because today that's the main draw for me in Windows. I'm gaming on my PC. The way Steam is, I'm probably gonna sideload Steam OS on this computer and see what that experience is like, because I can't with Windows anymore. One day this works, the next day it doesn't, and I'm a whole IT professional. I don't want to be at work when it's time for me to be editing my business work in photography or unwinding in gaming. And I don't understand for the life of me what's going on with Apple. Like, why have they not approached gaming yet? The sheer power of these M processors, I think a lot of people don't get it. When Apple's ready to turn up this gaming thing, people don't need to buy a gaming PC. Your regular MacBook or MacBook Air is enough. It's such a mind-blowing thing to me. But yeah, this 2026 is very interesting, how integrated I am in the Apple ecosystem and how well it is for me. And there's a lot about this that's annoying, right? And I don't run into the annoyances anymore now that I'm here. A lot of the annoyances came from, well, why does Apple have to do it this way? Why are they forcing me to do it? Like, just do it. And once you do it, you'll never think about it again. Like, I can't explain to you what it's like to be working on the couch, me and my wife, on both our businesses. And I'll just hit the AirPlay button and share to the TV, because we got Apple TVs everywhere. I can't explain to you what it's like to not have audio sync issues when I'm streaming movies from my Plex on the Apple TV. These are things that don't exist. There's something to just putting the phone on the right under the TV on the entertainment thing, and then having a FaceTime call So my mother can see her granddaughter and my wife and me, and we can all have a conversation. Like, there's a lot here. Apple does a lot. I don't find many annoyances with them. A lot of the annoyances I have with Apple really in the enterprise world, and things about federating Apple into MDM and into Azure. It ain't that great, but at the end of the day, it works, and I gotta eat my own dog food. Just do it the way Apple will do it, and it works. Whatever. But yeah, it's what more of a fitting video to drop on this channel than me facing the firing squad of converting over to Apple, with probably much more so to go in the future. Ay, ay, ay. You guys know who I am, and if you don't, my name is Ramon. Like I said at the top of the video, it's great to see you. And I look forward to much more videos here. Hit that like button, hit the comments below. Let's talk about it. I'm out of here. Peace.